This is our news, the weekend edition, and on the broadcast tonight. One union president is speaking out on the state of government buildings here in the capital. Plus, the opposition leader questions the relevance of the Queen's honors and demanding change. Two Junkanoo leaders are calling for a major overhaul to the country's premier cultural event.
Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Good evening, I'm Andrew Knowles, and thanks so much for joining us. Following a promised government audit into its current infrastructure, one union president is blasting officials for the state of several government buildings. Our Jared Higgs tells us more in this report.
We have the Ministry of Health that has a roof that's been open from the last hurricane, hasn't been repaired. We have the Department of Environmental Health that is housing people in a building that is collapsing.
BPSU President Kingsley Ferguson is lamenting the state of government buildings, demanding that an audit be performed to determine the state of government infrastructure. Ferguson says he believes government's priority should be to address the state of several damaged yet still occupied buildings.
Governments have agendas and they do things in their order of priority. I would think anything that is a health hazard that can jeopardize the life of an individual should be number one priority. And so my concern for public servants is, one, that they work in an environment that is conducive to productivity and that will not have any ill effects on their health.
Employees of the General Post Office on East Hill Street have endured mold and air conditioning problems for several years now. Back in October 2018, government passed a resolution to rent the Town Centre Mall, which is owned by Cabinet Minister Brent Simonet and his brother.
These are our membership, these are our constituents. And so it's indeed a concern that the addressing of the work environment is given urgency. It's the employer's responsibility to ensure that the environment is safe and healthy. And so we have Department of Public Service, mold. It's already been determined. The National Insurance Board has allowed there to be an inspection. It's a confirmed case that mold is in the building.
While those post office workers have a solution they can look forward to, Ferguson says his other union members across the public service deserve better.
The other concern is, how do we treat the ailments that people contract as a result of being in these adverse work environment? Anything that is arising in or out of the course of employment is considered an industrial action. But yet these members of the public service have to put their hands in the already strained pockets and go and see a physician without any compensation being given from the employer who's responsible for the adverse work environment.
The BPSU president says the health of workers should be a more significant priority. For Our News Weekend, I'm Jared Higgs.
All right, thanks, Jared. Well, more Haitian migrants apprehended in Bahamian waters this morning by the Defense Force. However, it is unknown just how many migrants were on board the vessel. According to reports, the Defense Force Air, Land and Sea operations in southern New Providence and the Exuma Chain area captured the Haitian vessel shortly after 8 a.m. this morning. We're told the vessel was being escorted to the Coral Harbor base, where the migrants will be handed over to immigration authorities for further investigations. Now, on Thursday, you may recall 54 Haitian migrants were apprehended in Abaco during a joint operation. 29 migrants were arrested aboard a yacht anchored near the entrance of Manowar Key Mosh Harbor. Authorities were then alerted by local residents to undocumented Haitian nationals being ferried ashore by a speedboat with an additional 25 Haitian migrants aboard. Well, the announcement of the Queen's New Year's honors is receiving some critique. Opposition leader Philip Davis says he hopes that the country would use the recently established national honors to replace the Queen's honors.
We passed our national honors with a view of replacing the Queen's honors. We know that the bill itself had not gone that far and that they are still available for conferment. But I would like to see the day when we adhere to just our own national honors.
Davis added that as a sovereign nation, there is no shame in moving away from the Queen's honors.
Our national honors is a way and means of entrenching our own identity, making us feel good about ourselves, and at the same time uplifting those amongst us who would have made significant contributions to the good, the common good of our society. It does not take away from the identity who we are, and in any event, the time has come as a sovereign country and a sovereign nation to be giving our own awards.
Among those included in this year's Queen's Honors are Janet Bostwick, former Commissioner of Police Reginald Ferguson, Cabinet Secretary Camille Johnson, and former Member of Parliament Kenneth Russell. In other news this evening, leaders from two A category groups that faced major issues at the Boxing Day and New Year's Day parades that saw them disqualified for one parade and prompted them to intentionally miss another are calling for a major overhaul of the cultural event. They are insisting major changes are needed to improve the parade. With more, here's our Jasmine Brown.
Less participants and more organization are just some of the suggestions being made by avid jonqueneurs, including treasurer of the Music Makers, Perry Thompson. He insists the entire process needs revamping.
Listen, my jonqueneur within itself needs to be reformed. You know, there's a lot of things that need to happen in jonqueneur.
Thompson said a top priority should be the size of the parades. He insisted once jonqueneur officials get control of group sizes, lengthy parades should be a thing of the past.
Look at even some of the major A groups. The groups are too large, the groups are too big. You know, you got the group up in Rawson Square, people dancing to what? The back group way back down in the lineup. So, I mean, it doesn't really make any sense, you know what I mean? I think you need to put some control on the size of the groups. That one in itself could assist even with the parade management of the parades, because you know the gaps, the size of the groups, you know, even sometimes the size of these costumes, they can hardly move or get these costumes the way they want them to move. It's ridiculous.
The Music Makers was one of two groups to be shrouded in controversy during the last two parades. Prodigal Sons is the other. Music Makers was disqualified on Boxing Day after it failed to meet the numbers necessary to qualify as an A category group. Based on their experience on Boxing Day, he says a decision was made to miss the New Year's Day parade. Prodigal Sons also chose not to participate in the New Year's Day parade after the group was disqualified on Boxing Day because key costumes could not make it onto the parade route. Prodigal Sons leader Eric Knowles had suggestions of his own on how to improve the big parades. His solution was pumping more money into groups.
And the truth of the matter is, you could have the stuff, but if you can't pay the fella to bring the rig head and the trailer and stuff like that, he ain't the move, you know. And like I say, funding.
As it relates to jonqueneur officials' views, the matters were discussed in a jonqueneur conclave last February. However, JCNP Chairman Silbert Ferguson has said not much came out of that conclave. Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
All right, thanks a lot, Jasmine. We will take our first break here, but still ahead tonight, find out the latest on Bahamas Power and Light's voluntary separation packages. That story and more when our news returns.